Rutledge, and it's story time with Mrs. Rutledge. So glad to see you, although I can't really see you, but you can see me. I'm sitting in my living room, and today is St. Patrick's Day. Normally, we'd be celebrating together if we were in class, but we can't, so we're gonna celebrate this way. So, I've got a couple things sitting out. We have some decorations that you might see on St. Patrick's Day. This is one of my son's favorites, little leprechaun. We have a real shamrock plant, seen better days. We have some corned beef and cabbage with potatoes and carrots and different yummies. Maybe you're having that at your house tonight, maybe you're not. We have things like Irish soda bread. Never had it. Gonna try it. I just saw it at the store and thought it looked interesting. And today I'm gonna be reading a book called Jamie O'Rourke and the Big Potato. But before I do that, I wanted to talk a little bit about potatoes. Potatoes are a root vegetable. Potatoes grow under the ground. And they have, see all these little things, these are called eyes of the potatoes, and these are actually where roots start to come out. So if I buried this potato in the ground, these would be roots. Some of them would be shoots that would grow up out of the ground. And some would be roots that would grow down into the ground. And they grow more potatoes. And I have potatoes in my corned beef and cabbage and potatoes that I made today. We also have carrots. Carrots are a root vegetable as well. The part of the carrot that we eat is actually the part that's under the ground. And then the stems grow out of the ground, but it's a root and we actually eat it like that. And then I put something new into my dinner this year. It's called a rutabaga. It's part of the turnip family. And rutabagas are also like potatoes. There's my dog Jackson. He's very interested. He's ready for St. Patrick's Day with his little bow tie today. But rutabagas are a root vegetable as well. It grows under the ground. You can even see, if my videographer zooms in, you can see a tiny little leaf starting to sprout out of the top. This is the root that would continue to grow down. This is the main bulb of the root. No, Jackson, you cannot eat my dinner. And then the leaves and things would sprout out of the ground. But the rutabaga, this part is the root that we would eat. And it's in my dinner. I'm going to try it tonight. And my kids are going to try it too. We'll see if they like it. Most of us prefer to eat things like this. Like those yummy displays in the kitchen that we see. Stop. Not in the kitchen, in the grocery store, of all the St. Patty's Day goodies. So I did get some of those for my kids. So anyway, and if we were together at school, we'd be eating some of those. Stop. All right. Anyway, I have a nice fire. If you're watching this before bed, you can snuggle up with a blankie. We have a nice fire here. And I'm going to read Jamie O'Rourke and the Big Potato by Tomie dePaola. This is one of my favorite authors. And this is an Irish folktale, which means it's a story that's been passed down from person to person and generation to generation for a long time. And it teaches a lesson of some sort. So let's learn. Jamie O'Rourke and the Big Potato. Thumbs up for the, hopefully you said title page. Jamie O'Rourke was the laziest man in all of Ireland. He would do anything to avoid working, especially if it had to do with growing potatoes. Jamie O'Rourke, his wife Eileen would say, "We'll have nothing to eat this winter if you don't go out and dig up the potatoes." That's what they called them. "Aye, saints preserve us," Jamie would whine. "Me back is sore as can be. Sure as I'm telling you, wife, you'll have to dig 'em up yourself. I'll break in two if I so much as have to get up out of this bed. So Eileen, who had done all the planting and the watering and the weeding, anyhow, would go out into their tiny garden and dig up the smallest potatoes in all of Ireland. All because Jamie was too lazy to dig up a larger garden and had no money to buy some good potato seed. Then, poor Eileen, wouldn't you know it, she wrenched her back and was laid up in bed. Saint Bridget and the Virgin Mary herself would have smiled on Eileen O'Rourke, said all the village women. Why, it's the first rest that poor woman's had since the day she married that lazy good-for-nothing Jamie O'Rourke. With Eileen in bed, Jamie began to worry. No Eileen. To dig meant no potatoes all winter. No potatoes meant no food. Ay, poor me, wailed Jamie. I'll surely starve to death. I'd better go to church and confess to Father O'Malley. There's no telling how soon old death may be knocking on my door. So even though it was midnight, Jamie set out for the church. He was about halfway down the hill when he heard singing and a tap, tap, tapping sound. I'm sure I wouldn't be knowing, Jamie whispered, but I swear it be a wee leprechaun. And sure enough, sitting in a circle of ferns in the moonlight was a leprechaun, singing and hammering tiny nails into the beds of the fairy boots that he was making. Jamie knew just what he needed to do. He crept up and he grabbed that little wee man by his coattails and held him firm. Aye, let me go, the leprechaun shouted. Not on your life, Jamie said. Not until you show me where you keep your pot of gold. Now everyone in Ireland knew that a leprechauns make boots and they make dancing shoes for fairies who pay them with gold. And everyone knows that if you catch a leprechaun, he'll pay for his freedom with his pot of gold. But this leprechaun was a very cleverest than most. Oh, please, Mr. Mortal Man, he pleaded. I'm just starting out making fairy shoes and I have only 1 or 2 pieces of gold in me pot. Won't you take a wish instead? Why, what would I wish for? Jamie asked. Me, who's about to die of starvation because me wife is sick in bed and I can't dig up the potatoes, and she can't dig up the potatoes for the winter. And they're such puny little potatoes anyhow. Well, said the leprechaun, reaching into his pocket, you could wish for the biggest potato in the whole wide world. It would last you all winter, and you wouldn't even have to do anything more than plant this seed. Here you go. And water it and then wait. You think he's tricking him? I don't know. This sounded wonderful to Jamie. Done, he shouted. And as the leprechaun dropped the seed into Jamie's hand, Jamie let go of his coattails and off that leprechaun scampered. When Eileen heard what he had done, she was furious. Jamie O'Rourke, you're not only the laziest man in Ireland, but a fool as well. Giving up a pot of gold for a potato seed. Well, I'm going to plant this seed and water it, and then you'll see, Jamie said. And out he went. And faith, Eileen did see. In no time at all, the biggest, finest, biggest potato plant had sprouted out of the ground, followed by the potato itself. It was so big that it pushed up not only all the dirt in the garden, but the garden shed and the corner of their cottage as well. Well, surely now it's ready to dig, Jamie said proudly. Pretty big. going to be a lot of potatoes, a lot of potato soup. He hoed all around it, but he couldn't dig that potato out of the ground. So he went and got a beam, that's a long piece of wood, and a big rock, and he tried to pry it out. He pushed and he pushed and he pulled and he pulled, but it wouldn't budge. As he was pondering what to do, that means he was thinking, his neighbor passed by on the way to the village. He couldn't believe his eyes. He couldn't wait to tell everyone in the village what he had seen, and before you knew it, up the hill to Jamie's was filled with villagers coming to see that big, giant potato. There they go, up the hill, and there's that big, giant potato there. Where did it come from? They asked. Jamie told them all about that lucky night that he had caught that wee leprechaun, and how smart he had been. Why, anyone could have gotten a big pot of gold, he bragged. But the biggest potato in the world, well, that took some doing. However did you outsmart the leprechaun? They all asked. Jamie hesitated and scratched his head. We'll help you dig up your potato, Jamie, if you tell us how you did it. And they grabbed shovels and hoes, and they started to help him dig. They dug and they dug. And they pushed and they shoved until that potato flew up out of the hole and rolled down the hill faster and faster until it reached the bottom, where it bounced up high, boom, and came to a stop, wedged between the two stone walls on either side of the road. Uh-oh, I think it caused a problem. What are they going to do now? That potato is so big that no one, no cart, no nothing can get by it, the constable complained to Father O'Malley. How's a body to get in and out of our village? What shall we do? The villagers all cried. Then they all looked at Jamie and said, well, it's your potato. You'll have to move it out of the way. Well, Eileen spoke up, there's more than enough potato for everyone. Why don't y'all go take some? So they did. The villagers sawed and chopped and chopped and sawed and carted off huge pieces of potato while Jamie sat on the stone wall and just watched. All winter long, everyone had potato to eat and eat and eat and eat, until no one wanted to even see or look at a potato ever again. Everyone's eating. They're all like, they all start out happy, and then they're like, ugh. Lots of potatoes every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Then the springtime came, and Jamie said, I saved a potato eye for a seed, and it's just about time to get ready to plant it. Oh no, the villagers cried. If you promise not to plant that potato seed, Jamie, we'll promise before St. Patrick himself and all the saints to see that you and Eileen always have plenty to cook and eat. We don't want another giant potato around here. Jamie smiled and agreed. What a perfect life for a lazy, good-for-nothing man. And so you see, darling Eileen, Jamie told her, I wasn't such a fool with that leprechaun after all. And Eileen had to admit that Jamie O'Rourke was right. So in the end, he still doesn't have to do any work, and now all of his neighbors are giving him food. And there's the leprechaun with his pot of gold. Would you rather have a potato? Or would you rather have some gold? I don't know. I think I'd take the gold. Thanks for having story time with me tonight. Jamie O'Rourke and the Big Potato by Tommy DePaula. Check it out yourself at your local library or Amazon or wherever you buy books. Now, I think it's time for me to have a little bit of my corned beef and potatoes.